More of the depopulation. Henry Kissinger, 1978, US policy toward the third world should be one of depopulation. David Rockefeller, the year 2000, we're on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis and the nations will accept the New World Order. That's what Copenhagen is all about. David Rockefeller, Memoirs, 2002, founder of the Council of Foreign Relations. We wield over American political and economical institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterising my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it. He's a monster. He is a devil. Oh, here we go. David Rockefeller again, co-founder of the Trilateral Commission. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promise of discretion for almost 40 years. That's how long they've been bought. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plans for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. Oh my God. But the world is now much more sophisticated. The word sophisticated means to have taken something pure and perverted it, to corrupt it. That's what sophisticated means. Corrupted, perverted. Check out Webster's original 1828 dictionary. Thomas Ferguson, the Latin American case officer for the State Department's Office of Population Affairs, OPA, now the US State Department Office of Population Affairs, established by Henry Kissinger in 1975. There is a single thing behind all our work. We must reduce population levels, said Thomas Ferguson, the Latin American case officer. I just said that. Either they, that's in governments, do it our way, through nice clean methods, or they will get the kind of mess that we have in El Salvador, or in Iran, or in Beirut. Population is a political problem. Once population is out of control, it requires authoritarian government, even fascism, to reduce it. The professionals, said Ferguson, aren't interested in lowering population for humanitarian reasons. That sounds nice. We look at resources and environmental constraints. We look at our strategic needs and we say this country must lower its populations or else we will have trouble. So steps are taken. El Salvador is an example where our failure to lower population by simple means has created the basis for a national security crisis. The government of El Salvador failed to use our programs to lower their population. Now they get a civil war because of it. There will be dislocation and food shortages. They still have too many people there. That was in 1981. Then you've got the Secretary of Defence, William S. Cohen, April 28, 1997, his testimony before the Congressional Committee. And advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool. Okay, Sir Julian Huxley, UNESCO, its purpose and its philosophy. Political unification in some sort of world government will be required, even though any radical eugenic policy will be for many years politically and psychologically impossible. It will be important for UNESCO to see that the eugenic problem is examined with the greatest care and that the public mind is informed of the issues at stake, so that much that now is unthinkable may at least become thinkable. In the early 1950s, former communist Joseph Z. Kornfeder expressed the opinion that UNESCO was comparable to a Communist Party agitation and propaganda department. He stated that such a party apparatus handles the strategy and method of getting at the public mind, young and old. Huxley would lard the agency with a motley collection of communists and fellow travellers. President Richard Nixon believed abortion was necessary as a form of eugenics to prevent interracial breeding. Theodore Roosevelt to Charles B. Davenport, January 3, 1913. Charles B. Davenport Papers, Department of Genetics, Cold Spring Harbor, New York. Quote, I wish very much that the wrong people could be prevented entirely from breeding. And when the evil nature of these people is sufficiently flagrant, this should be done. Criminals should be sterilised and feeble-minded persons forbidden to leave offspring behind them. the emphasis should be laid on getting desirable people to breed. Now we're getting down to the Georgia Guidestones by Carl Telkrid. The Georgia Guidestones, a massive granite edifice planted in the Georgia countryside, contains a list of 10 new commandments for Earth's citizens. The first commandment, and the one which concerns this article, simply states, maintain humanity under 500 million, in perpetual balance with nature. Okay. 500 million people is their ideal population for the Earth. Where are we at now? 6.7 billion? Robert Walker, former chair of PepsiCo and Procter & Gamble, on water. Water is a gift of nature. Its delivery is not. It must be priced to ensure it is used sustainably. Ted Turner makes the radical statement that a total population of 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline from present levels, would be ideal. Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, funded by the Rockefellers, said in her proposed The American Baby Code, intended to become law, quote, the most merciful thing that a family does to one of its infant's members is to kill it. This is the same woman whom Hillary Clinton publicly declared she looked up to during the 2008 presidential debates. Okay, a short list of advocates of eugenics. We've got Alexander Graham Bell, George Bernard Shaw, H.G. Wells, Sidney Webb, William Beveridge, John Maynard Keynes, Margaret Sanger, Marie Stopes, Woodrow Wilson, Theodore Roosevelt, Emily Zola, George Bernard Shaw, John Maynard Keynes, John Harvey Kellogg, Winston Churchill, Linus Pauling, Sidney Webb, Sir Francis Galton, Charles B. Davenport, futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard. Oh, Henry Kissinger. Let's get on to Henry Kissinger. Alexander Haig is quoted referring to the US State Department Office of Population Affairs, which was established by Henry Kissinger in 1975. The title has since been changed to the Bureau of Oceans, International Environmental and Scientific Affairs. Accordingly, the Bureau of Oceans, International Environmental and Scientific Affairs has consistently blocked industrialisation policies in the Third World, denying developing nations access to nuclear energy technology, the policies that would enable countries to sustain a growing population. According to State Department sources and Ferguson himself, Alexander Haig is a firm believer in population control. Although the above stated quotes should be sufficient to prove that the elitists in power have definite intent to depopulate this planet to what they deem to be a sustainable level, some will argue that these are only opinions and are of no real consequence. The writer of this article moves to provide bits of documentation showing this is a plan that has a worldwide scope of influence. Most of these documents are at least 10 years old and some older. That, however, does not take away from the seriousness of the content. Do not think them invalid due to their age. It takes time to format plans on such a grand scale. Bottom line is you can see all this happening today. All right, let's go on to cover some of the issues stemming from the United Nations Treaty on the Biological Diversity, Agenda 21, which Bill Clinton signed into law in 1993 before it was sent to the US Senate for ratification. Okay, the EPA Internal Working Document Ecosystem Management. The branch executive should direct federal agencies to evaluate national policies in light of international policies and obligations and to amend national policies to achieve international objectives. In other words, our federal bureaucrats are writing US law independent of Congress, who has constitutional authority to do that. They are changing regulations and creating laws out of thin air. They are no longer working for the people of the United States, they are working for the international community. There are so many treaties written up that they have effectively bound the United States, whereas a few of the treaties were not a problem. The abundance, hundreds of them, have now taken control over all of our lives. Now that's the United States, and we all know that Australia follows suit from whatever big brother the US is doing. They follow along like a lamb to the slaughter.